Hello awesome people, I was going to make a video about my gender identity today.
I now was going to have a quick power nap, but since you insist about making this video, and I was alerted to it by the Social Justice Warriors Facebook group, who by the way are anti-social justice for those people, by the way, who don't know who they are, I thought, why not? Let's do a video, because I've seen you before. I'd like to know what you're up to since the last time I saw you, which was on the Drunken Peasants, nearly about 1 year ago, was it? That long ago? YouTube time, it flies by.
But something else has been getting to me, and I think it's more important.
Well, it must be pretty urgent.
Your fave is problematic.
My fave is problematic? Oh wait, I'm not really a Tumblr user. Who could this possibly be about?
If you're a Tumblr user like I am, you've probably heard this phrase. And if you're in my corner of Tumblr, you've probably heard a few people take some digs at young adult novelist and YouTube star John Green. A quick Google search will reveal to you that primary complaints of John Green's problematicness.
Wait, John Green? That social justice warrior babe who's loved around the world by millions of Tumblrinas, feminists, social justice warriors, even people who aren't enjoy him. Hey, he made the Nerd Fighters, and I'm was part of the Nerd Fighter Society at my university. He's created a good group of people for good people, other good people, and I don't know what he's done wrong and why he deserves the title problematic. 'Cause as far as I'm aware, the guy's harmless. He just writes novels, fights worlds suck. He seems to me like an all-round good guy, just a bit misguided. But you know what? He's never done anything wrong to me. He's not done wrong to anybody else. And I'm not gonna fault him for having his own opinions. But you seem to be faulting him for whatever he's done. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, as I always do. Let's see what you have to
include that he once joked about nerd girls being an underutilized romantic resource.
What are you trying to imply here? That John Green is some kind of sexist pig? Well, I'm gonna have to do some research. Now, I've done my research, and I think this is as close to in context as I possibly can get his quote, that he somehow apologised for. But let's hear John Green in his own words. And he says, "Nerd girls are the world's most underutilised romantic resource. And guys, do not tell me that nerd girls are not hot, because that shows a Paris Hilton-esque failure to understand hotness." Now, I don't know how he's being sexist. You could argue that he's kind of being sexist towards Paris Hilton type women, you know, but that's a stretch. He's probably just not into that kind of girl. If anything, he is embracing nerd girls. He is setting them up. He is praising them. He's saying that they're not used enough in literature, which I guess he probably has a point, but in his genre, they're kind of not. Yeah, if nerd is even a genre in and of itself. So the idea that he's sexist for saying this is patently absurd.
That he has shamed thin women, women with eating disorders, and women who have had cosmetic surgery. That he culturally appropriated Cinco de Mayo by calling his brother's birthday Henko de Mayo.
This is a hell of a lot of accusations to make to a guy who, as far as I'm aware, has not done any of these things to anorexic people, to whatever you just mentioned, because you rolled them off the tongue so quickly I couldn't quite catch what you said and what he's done. And apparently culturally appropriated Cinco de Mayo, a festival that is celebrated not just by Mexican people in the USA, but pretty much everyone. I've seen it. I have American friends who go out to Cinco de Mayo, and they're not all Mexican Americans. They're white, they're black, they're other Latinos. You know, Latinos aren't all the same. They're not this culturally homogenous group. They're a very diverse group in and of themselves. I mean, as far as I know, Cinco de Mayo is a Mexican thing. I could be wrong, so if anyone out there needs to correct me, please correct me so I can, you know, put a mental note for the future. So the idea that he's culturally appropriated something by making a pun, I've heard about this. Hanko de Mayo is a joke about his brother, about a special day for his brother, I think. I don't know what the joke is. I think it's an in-joke. I wouldn't call that cultural appropriation. In fact, cultural appropriation in and of itself is bullshit, and people like you are no better than the segregationists of the 1950s, because the idea that we should end cultural exchange just to not offend people, and because some people might use music to make loads of money, be they black or white, is somehow bad for humanity. No. Case in point, I know I'm going to kind of shill myself, but look at my video about appropriation in music. Would you say rock and roll is appropriation, considering what it did to combine white and black culture together in a time where they were as divided as could possibly be, literally and figuratively? I think you'll find that appropriation itself is bullshit, and whatever he did to those girls, I don't think he did anything. I don't think he's done these things. He's no longer flavour of the month, so now you guys have to go and attack him and accuse him of these things that he probably never did, or they could be misconstrued or understood and believed in such a way that he did do these things when he actually probably didn't.
That he defended Lacey Greene's transphobia, that he fat shamed.
Now, I don't remember Lacey Greene being transphobic, and I don't remember him defending her being transphobic, and I don't remember him fat shaming either. I mean, why are you, a fellow thin person, defending fat people who hate you for having your thin privilege? That's what I'm just wondering there. I mean, knowing Lacey Greene, she probably has said something really stupid that could be misconstrued as transphobic, and I hesitate to defend her, but I find her very hard to be a transphobic person. I can't see that, and I can't see John Green defending transphobia. As usual, it's you special snowflakes making a big deal out of nothing.
And much, much more. I'll put links to these complaints in the video description.
Yeah, and Tumblr is an absolutely brilliant source for complaints and for evidence. If anything, it's a load of bullshit and trying to stretch. They're absolutely trying their hardest to make John Green look as problematic as they possibly can, because a lot of it's all unfounded and a lot of it's down to their personal opinions. And also, one of them actually directed me to the same place I found my quote, which was in context. And it doesn't prove that he was being shaming or sexist. So, Tumblr. It's Tumblr, love. I know you are part of that whole place, but it's not a good source. It doesn't prove your point.
Now, as a fan of John Green's Vlogbrothers videos, I'm going to say right off the bat that I'm probably going to be pretty biased in this video. I'm not going to try to be, but let's be honest.
At least you're honest. But so far, it doesn't seem like you are being particularly biased towards him.
First off, I'd like to say that the answer to this video's title is yes. John Green is problematic.
John Green is problematic. The world has finally gone insane.
Because everyone is problematic.
Wait, we're all problematic? Wait, how does John Green being problematic because everyone is problematic make him problematic? Surely it's all those things that you listed which actually don't make him problematic at all. He's just done things that social justice warriors don't like, therefore he is now apparently problematic. That's not because I'm problematic, because I'm the polar opposite to you. No, it's just because that people in general are problematic. That doesn't make any sense. But I'm sure you're going to explain it.
Oftentimes I see people on the internet using the fact that everyone is problematic as an excuse for their own or someone else's problematicness. But I don't really think that's cool.
But you just did.
For example, I personally think that most people in the United States are racist because of internalized prejudices that have been ingrained within us and our institutions for 4 centuries.
She's just accused most people in the United States of thought crime. Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm sorry, but whenever I hear someone like her say something about internalized prejudices, I usually think projection, because I've seen it with Marina Shut Up. She talks about people having internalized prejudices, but how can these people possibly know that these people have internalized prejudices against black people, white people, etc., when you can possibly know what's going on in their heads? Therefore, thought crime. These people believe in thought crime, but they have no way of proving it.
So in a sense, a lot of people are only racist because they were brought up to be that way. So their racism is explainable, but that doesn't make it excusable.
But what isn't excusable is you saying that John Green is problematic because everyone's problematic, yet saying that's not a cool thing to do, but we let that slide because I'm a social justice warrior. If I got that right.
So yes, Everybody is problematic, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't make the effort to be less problematic.
You keep using that word. I don't think you know what it means. What do you mean less problematic? Most people in the world aren't worried necessarily about being offensive towards people. Most people are pretty sure that they're not racist, that they're not sexist, that they're not going to offend someone, because you never know if you're going to. But then there's also no reason to worry. Most people in the world are not problematic. Especially people in the West. Most people in the West are not problematic. But they're only problematic to you because being 80% of the population you don't agree with the ideology, of course they're going to be problematic. They're the 80% of people that you assume have internalised prejudices when they don't. They don't. I don't have any internalised prejudices. Why would I? I mean, I know deep down that I don't hate any race or gender or sex or whatever. I don't. I personally don't care about those things. I really don't. So, that's me explaining my mind to you. But you went ahead and judged that I have an internalised prejudice. Although I'm not American, so, you know, but I'm just trying to make sense of this jargled argument that you've come up with.
If you're told that something that you or somebody else does or says is potentially otherizing or hurtful or can, like, perpetuate an idea that prevents a certain demographic of people from getting a job, your response should not be, but everybody does that. Instead, your response should be to listen to the criticism, think about it, evaluate it, think about what you agree with and disagree with, and then change based on your new thoughts and reflections.
Again, people, your own thoughts are crimes. Something that you may say, or that you may think, or that you might write can somehow, somewhere, maybe cause trouble for people who are apparently oppressed or are being oppressed from getting jobs. So you've got to watch what you're saying. You've got to apparently take criticism from these people who want to control the way you think and speak and feel, because they don't like what you're saying. What you're saying might not do anything at all. Remember, it's always ifs and buts with these people. It's never this will cause trouble. It's always maybe. You've now got to change the way you think because it's problematic. It's problematic because their feels are being hurt. I can't believe I genuinely don't know what's going on. I don't know what some of this has got to do with John Green and why he's problematic, because he's gotten in trouble with his fans recently. Oh, his pretend fans, you know, the people who are hipsters who are following him. You know, in football we call these people glory hunters.
John Green, in my opinion, has done this pretty well for the most part. Has he said things that I think are bad? Hell yes.
Doesn't make him any of those things. That is your opinion. You think they're bad, but the rest of the society does not think they're bad. In fact, I don't think what he said is bad. I don't even know anything that he's done that could possibly provoke your ire other than he's hurt your feels somehow, which is all this always boils down to.
I think that the list I found on Tumblr was fair. No, I don't think that a lot of thought went into it.
We can both agree with that. Not a lot of thought was put into it, but I don't think you should really be using it as a source. I think you should really be using the actual things that he believes that are true. I don't know. I my brain is literally melting away right now. You could have used better sources. You could have actually linked us to his things he said. You could have linked us to the videos that he talked about as well, so we can make our own minds up about them. But you linked to Tumblr instead because, you know, you are part of Tumblr. But if you think it's problematic, using your phrase, no, I'm starting to use it. It's a bit of a virus, isn't it, that word? If you think that it has problems and it's not well thought out, why use it as a source? To show what he's done is problematic when you could have just used his actual direct quotes. You know, without those guys working their magic and linking to other people's opinions of the things he said, which is some of the links we're linking to.
Things like Cinco de Mayo are clearly problematic, but is John Green transphobic? No. Telling internet people not to send death and rape threats to someone who used a transphobic slur years ago and has since apologized and somewhat made up for it with a highly anti-problematic YouTube channel is not transphobic.
It's not transphobic when it's us doing it. That's what she means by anti-problematic. Basically, anything that is social justice in thought is not bad, but anything that isn't is bad.
It's kind of basic human decency to not send someone death and rape threats. What I do think is a pretty fair criticism of John Green is that he and his brother called out YouTube sex offenders and sort of like congratulated themselves for creating a community that didn't accept inexcusable behavior. But
now, unless the two Greens were trying to drum up a bit of a witch hunt and try and use mob justice on these YouTube sex offenders, I don't know. I'm sure you'll discuss that later. Hopefully you'll tell us what this criticism is. But if they're actually reporting people who are actually sex offenders, isn't that a good thing? Surely they would be proud of themselves for, kind of stopping sex offenders from hurting people. I don't know. I mean, I'm clueless as to what has been going on. I'm with a grain of salt taking your word for it and trying to think skeptically and rationally about all of this. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
Whilst doing that, they completely ignored Shane Dawson's blackface comedy routine and all of his racism in general.
So maybe they did do a good thing by calling out these sex offenders, but because some guy did a blackface routine, which I have not seen, and judging from what I've seen in this video, you're taking literally everything as offensive. I mean, who knows? It could well have been not blackface. I don't know who this person was. I don't know if what he was doing was racist or not, if it was satire. But just if he was being racist, and these guys didn't call it out, well, they didn't call it out. Maybe they didn't know he had done this. You can't be expected to call out every bad thing. It's impossible. Some people just get away with stuff. It's not easy trying to, fight for justice because you're not going to catch everything. Even Superman can't catch everything.
I also think is a fair criticism of John Green is that his books are heteronormative and cisnormative and hella whitewashed.
So earlier in the video, you're telling people not to culturally appropriate, but yeah, when John Green talks about things that he knows and what he's part of, he's part of the whole white, cisgendered, whitewashed thing. Apparently that's problematic because he doesn't write about people like you and me. Seriously? What do you expect us to do? So if I was to write about, I don't know, African Americans, okay, and it was like a love story and they get together. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, but set in the Bronx or maybe a middle class place. I don't know. Whatever. Would that be cultural appropriation because the characters have to be African American and I'm a British guy who's mixed race and writes about these particular characters? Is that really cultural appropriation? Or would you rather have me write about the Trinidadian ancestors that I know nothing about, that I've only really known recently, who are my real family, that I have no real links to besides blood lineage? Or do I talk about the equally mysterious past of my white ancestry? I don't know an awful lot about that either. And plus, I don't consider myself to be part of either cultures. I'm just Charming Man 93 doing his own thing, So, am I culturally appropriating both, or is that okay? Or should I just do what Creationist Cat said when he was trying to work out what a race war is, when he says that Halle Berry doesn't know what to do, so she kills herself. Is that what I should do? Just not write, just do nothing? Because either way, I'll be appropriating other cultures, despite being a bit of both, but not really connected to them in a personal way, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion.
But yeah, John Green is problematic. I'm not going to touch on more of John Green's problematicness because I want this discussion to go beyond John Green. I want to talk about how we respond to problematicness, how we respond to inexcusable behavior.
But so far, it's all been subjective. I mean, You will respond in a different way. I will respond in a different way. All these other people that you're talking to who maybe are fans, or people like me who aren't a fan, will all react in a different way. They can't all react in the same way, and we all can't take the exact same subjective point of view, because your idea of problematic isn't necessarily the same as mine. But let's see what you have to say.
If you're a part of a marginalized group and a popular figure does something that contributes to a system that otherizes you, you have the right to be mad. But I do ask for intelligent discussion once that rage is inevitably replaced by exhaustion. I am definitely someone who will almost always defend an oppressed person's right to anger.
But in our Western society, there's not an awful lot of things that oppress us. I mean, there are a lot of societal biases against, people like us, but by and large, I wouldn't say we're oppressed. I don't feel oppressed. I feel more like... I've been stopped and questioned by the police 3 times in my life. In a very short space of time, outside of my home. Wait, no, it wasn't 3 times, was it? No, it was twice, wasn't it? Yeah, it was twice. Oh, fuck. I had to do that again. Alright, I need to get my facts right. Now, I don't particularly feel oppressed, and I don't think most, minority groups in the West are oppressed. Not in the sense that you're talking about. You're no longer living in Jim Crow. I'm no longer living in the 50s and 60s. We never had segregation as such. We had different communities, but that was mainly because the government put everyone in different groups of places in housing where really they should have integrated everyone in the same streets. Occasionally that happened, but it's a lot different. We are definitely victims of bias, but that can happen to everyone. I mean, as a mixed race person, I've been on the receiving end of So I mean, it's hard to explain. This is why I'm kind of using this word bias. I mean, I can't think of a word for it, but it's not oppression. I've been questioned by the police twice near my home about crime because someone who apparently looked like me, stole something. Despite the most illogical thing would point towards me walking into the crime scene would not have committed the crime, because why would the thief walk back to where he did the crime? Because he would be caught, wouldn't he? So, I mean, that's more of a bias. Although, was it to do with race? Definitely. But was I being oppressed? Not necessarily, I guess. Even though I was pissed off. But, it happens to a lot of people. Also, with affirmative action and other things that are in place, can we really say that people can say something that can stop us getting jobs? No, not at all. I mean, if anything, we've got a good chance of getting jobs. A lot's changed. This is no longer the 50s and the 60s. People aren't really oppressed. We're oppressed as a whole, really, if you think about it, by the bankers, by the government that props them up. It wasn't mansplaining and manspreading and others and whitewashing that caused the banking collapse and the Patriot Act, was it? It was the government, authoritarian governments. But then again, you're an authoritarian, so you probably don't really see a lot wrong with that, which is why you're attacking John Green and problematic stuff, whatever problematic is.
As someone who has experienced that anger, I'm also cautious to recognize when it is directed incorrectly.
But if people are problematic, apparently we can't think the way we do. So what's the point of having a discourse with us if you don't want us to think that way? I agree with you. Thoughtful, intelligent discourse is the way forward, but I don't think, from what I've gathered from you, this is what you want. You want everyone to think the same, but you'll never ever get anyone to think that way. Here we go. The I'm a victim argument.
So much rage right now because of how Black lives are treated in the United States and how they have been treated for all of its history.
They're treated a hell of a lot better than they were 50 years ago. And they're certainly treated a lot better than they were 100 years ago and 150 years ago and beyond that. Yes, a lot of problems have been going on. We've had the Charleston shooting, Ferguson. But to be honest, Are black people the only victims of that? No. I mean, only in Albuquerque, a couple of months before, or maybe even 12 months ago, I can't remember exactly when it was, a homeless man who was white, who was camping outside of some desolate ground in the desert. He wasn't doing anything wrong. I mean, nobody lived there. I don't know if it was private property or not, and if it was, let's be honest, nobody was using it. It was just wasteland. And the police, for whatever reason, were trying to arrest him. He obviously ran away because, you know, he didn't do anything. He had like something in his pocket. He had like a bread knife that wouldn't have hurt anyone. They set dogs on him, they shot him and tasered him, and I don't think he survived. And there's countless other people who have been victims of police brutality. It's happening everywhere, to everyone. The police do have bigoted racist members, but at the same time they have a lot of authoritarian, crazy psychopaths who just don't discriminate and will kill anyone who they perceive to be a threat. But, you know, apparently when it comes to social justice warriors, anyone who is not some kind of oppressed group, you know, what they consider an oppressed group, not what society considers one, to be, you know, sane people, actual experts, it doesn't matter. Those lives don't matter. It's these oppressed lives that matter. You know, never mind that the full picture is not as, well, excuse the pun, black and white as it seems to be. It's a lot more nuanced. It's not just a case of this particular group is getting more oppression than others. Historically, yes. But at the moment, I don't know. I'm not so sure. But that's just my opinion.
Rage because even members of my own family fail to understand the struggles of black people and women and queer people like me because their own privilege makes them so uncomfortable and guilty that they can't think about anything outside of themselves. But
that was a lot of anger in that statement, and I don't think that was anything to do with your family. You know what? Do you know why I think they don't understand? Because they don't feel oppressed. Like I was saying, I don't feel oppressed, and I'm a mixed race guy. They don't feel oppressed. They don't understand why you do. It's not about everyone else. You're making it out as if they don't understand what everyone's going through. They don't understand what you're going through. To them, you're kind of crazy. This is just what I'm gathering from you. You're projecting onto them. Okay? Of course they understand their own history. Your parents are older than you and have probably faced a hell of a lot more prejudice than you. So the idea that they couldn't possibly understand because now they have privilege. I mean, they might not necessarily be LGBT like you, obviously, but that they don't understand? Of course they do. I understand. But we're not oppressed. That's the thing. They understand that it's not like what you're saying it is. It's a lot more nuanced. They're not oppressed. They're just victims of some kind of bias, which has been reported, but that will go eventually as people like you stop causing more tension. It's people like you that are the problem. It's you who cause the tension. You are no better than the right-wing ideologues of yesteryear. Okay? Like I said, you're the one who's in favour of the segregation with your cultural appropriation bullshit and your safe spaces, and the fact that you're now accusing other black people of not knowing their privilege. I mean, what's the world coming to? If anything, it's you who's the problem. But you guys can't see it because you're blinded by this crazy thirst for justice that isn't necessarily needed.
Try to recognize where that rage comes from and when it is useful to let it out. I am privileged enough to think about when my rage is useful. Not everyone is, but I'm sorry.
So it is now a privilege to be angry? Is that what you're saying? Rage is now a privilege? Rage is an emotion that has no privilege. You can feel angry. Nobody has a privilege to be angry. It's a human thing that everyone has and feels. There's nothing remotely privileged about it. Okay? You can't apply this stupid theory to everything. It doesn't work. Because then you become, like you said, you've been on Tumblr so long and you've been indoctrinated by these crazy ideologues that now you think you're some kind of victim, oppressed person, and now you're angry. And if anything, it seems to be affecting you. That you've now called other black people, your own family, privileged. And that you're now telling people like John Green what to write, what to think, even though he's pretty much doing what you say he should do, which is to not culturally appropriate, but then he did by making a pun on Cinco de Mayo, which is not a cultural appropriation. If anything, it's cultural exchange and a joke, which is not bad. Personally, I think it's rubbish, but it's not a bad joke in what you would say. And none of these things you've mentioned is problematic. And if Lacey Green did say what she did, then he wasn't defending her transphobic comment. He was saying she's changed, and that's okay. You can defend someone for saying they've changed. He's not defending the comment, he's defending the person. If anything, you are problematic, and you are definitely the privileged one, because as usual, it's always the privileged amongst us who have to attack the other people for being privileged.
Sorry. A lot of Tumblr users are. And you should expect more from yourselves. A right to rage is to be defended. Reckless rage is to be defended and explained. Your pain is to be understood. Your pain and anger and outrage at injustice is a sign of you being a moral person. Those feelings are good. Nonetheless, those feelings can cloud your thoughts.
Well, no, it could just be a sign that you're a whiny crybaby. Doesn't rage and anger about things aren't necessarily a sign that you're moral. You have just gone on record, at least implying, that you want to punish thought crime in a way. I'm not trying to strawman you. That's what I got when you were telling us about problematic thoughts and feelings about which could somehow affect someone, maybe, possibly. That to me is you talking about thought crime. You have no right to tell us if our rage, that being rageful and angry at things makes you moral. It doesn't make you moral. Morality is very subjective. At least in my opinion, it's subjective.
And that is to be understood too. But it's not good. It's not to be aspired to. Thoughtfulness, intelligent discourse is to be aspired to. Otherwise, where are we left? So let's have more thoughtful, intelligent discourse on problematic people.
So basically, you want to talk within your own hug boxes and your echo chambers about people like me who don't think of the way you do. About how you can either make us think differently or to stop us from thinking the way we feel and saying what we say. I know this is all implications so far, but this is my interpretation of what you're saying, and it's, if anything, that's problematic, really.
On Shane Dawson's racism and on fat shaming and beauty standards. Let's talk about slurs. Let's talk about the rights of immigrants. Let's talk about xenophobia. Let's talk about poverty and inequity. Let's talk about equal access to opportunity. Let us feel what we will inevitably feel as humans in response to these issues. But let us not forget that those feelings, even on a biological level, are intended to ignite action. Being angry is good. Directing it at the right people and systems is better.
But not the way that you guys go about it. There are some problems that are only perceived. There are some real, tangible problems, but the way you people go about it is by attacking things like mansplaining and whitewashing and John Green. I know you feel that there's some kind of big, massive debate about this, but there isn't. If anything, all you've done is create some kind of video about how do we deal with thought crime. Really? That's all you're talking about. This is what you want. You want a discourse on how to stop people thinking what they want to think. I know I'm repeating myself, but this is what... And I don't want it to sound circular, but this is what you're saying. You are not trying to help the world. If anything, you are stopping people from thinking what they want to feel. The world was doing just fine without you guys trying to tell us what to do. If anything, you made everything worse. You're putting us back to square one. Look, all those things are horrible. And we do need to talk about those things. And we do talk about those things. You all talk about as if we're not having these discussions. We are. It's on the news all the time. But you're never satisfied, you guys. I don't know what else to say on that matter.
So John Green is a little problematic. I'm a little angry at him for it. But I'm angrier at the systems that have contributed to his problematicness. And
this system, until you guys started tampering with it, was not perfect. But it was amongst the most equal and liberal that we have had for the past 100 odd years. And now, people like John Green, your baby boy, your poster boy for social justice, is now problematic. It's not the system that is at fault. He has definitely not got any internalized prejudices. That is you projecting your prejudices onto him. You're the one who has a problem with, black people not seeing their privilege, white people not seeing their privilege. If anything, you're the one with who's problematic. As I said, you're the one we've got to talk about.
And I'm sure that he, unlike many, would be willing to discuss that with us. But let's talk about how to talk about it first. How do we deal with inexcusable behavior? Do we punish, rehabilitate, throw rage at, have compassion for? Do we make it about what people deserve? Or what will make them better? And by extension, the world. Most importantly, what do we want to achieve by dealing with bad behavior through these methods, beyond releasing pent-up rage? Let's talk about it. Hashtag dealing with problematic on Twitter.
So, rather than actually come to talk to us people that you find problematic and actually seeing for yourself that the world doesn't work the way you were taught that it works, you're gonna just start one of those stupid hashtags in your hug boxes and then your crazy echo chambers where we're all blocked and we can't see this stuff until someone who isn't blocked notifies us. And then, you have your little debate where you basically all agree with each other, and then you deal with us by, trying to get us all sacked from our jobs and trying to make governments pass legislation on trolls and different opinions, because apparently now it's a crime to be against certain religions in some countries and to say stupid things on the internet to people. That's what you guys really want to do. You can give us all the rhetorical questions you want, but at the end of the day, we all know what you guys are going to do.
Tumblr, video responses, everything. Let's even get John Green involved if we can. So that's it for me. Hope you guys have a great day. Have body positivity. Peace.
Just be human. Just do what you want to do. Don't listen to these social justice warriors who are trying to control the way you feel, what you think, and make you what you aren't. Just be you. Don't care. Do not believe these people that you've got internalised prejudice. You probably don't if you're a normal, decent person. And that's it for me. I was basically starting to say the same things over and over again, kind of like she was. Like problematic. God, you can make a drinking game out of that. But this has been CharmingMan93. Like and share the video, drop a comment, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.